Hello everybody, in this tutorial we're going to see how to layer different sounds for a static binaural output. So we're going to start here with a recording from a dummy head which is in stereo and already contains a 3D audio effect because of the natural cues that are embedded in the dummy head recording. And on top of that we're going to add object audio material that starts as a simple mono file, which gets binauralized through a plugin. So in this case, we're going to use Reaper, and I'm going to show a very simple way to do this using Sennheiser Orbit. There are tons of different ways to do this, but we're going to do a fairly simple method here. So we're going to end up with a layered binaural output which blends together what was recorded with the dummy head with mono sources that we binauralize and then we mix and pan in the 3D audio space, so we can choose the azimuth, we can choose the elevation, and so on. So here I'm going to start by adding a file which is being pre-recorded. So here I have forest file from an old recording, and this is already in binaural, so it's fairly long, so I'm going to make it much shorter by choosing a section here. You can fade in and out a little bit if you want. So I'm going just to play a little section of it. So if you have your headphones on, you should be able to hear some sort of enveloping, diffused 3D environment. So this is a recording of a forest, so it's about natural sounds, wind. There's I think a water stream nearby, so let's just listen a little bit. And you can see it's stereo. There's a few thunders in the background. Steps. Alright, so there's quite a few interesting events here. I'm going to just make this even a little shorter, just for the sake of demonstration. Alright, so here we have a forest recording with a bunch of events. So there's continuous events such as water streams and wind. There are some thunders in the background. You can feel the distance, although the localization is a little bit diffuse. And then there are steps towards the end. You can clearly localize those. Those are very crisp, and they definitely come approaching from a direction towards the head. So those are the steps of the whoever recorded this file. Alright, so if you're having your own recording, you have to make sure that your channels are fully panned left and right. I'm going to simulate this by exploding this take into mono tracks. Here we go. Now I separated the left and right channel of the stereo file. If you have a stereo file straight from a dummy head, you should be, as long as those channels are not mixed, you should be already all set. But in case you recorded channels separately, then this is how you will do it. I'm going to just take this stereo one away, just for the sake of space. So you have to make sure that the left channel, whatever is meant to be coming out of your left side of the earphone or headphones, needs to be panned fully left, right? So I'm right clicking on the volume knob and just panning fully left. Yeah, you can leave the width what it is. And conversely, for the other channel, the right channel, you pan fully right, this way. And that's it. Now we have the same situation as before, but split into two channels. I will make sure those channels do not mix together, but whatever was the left ear of the dummy remains on the left side of the reproduction. and the other way around. Whatever was on the right here of the dummy stays 100% on the right side of the reproduction. Okay, so now we have our bed, we have our base layer, and now we're gonna add new sounds on top of it. So here I have some sounds I downloaded earlier, which I think can fit into this forest mix. One is a dog, one is a bird. So I'm gonna start by inserting the dog sound here somewhere in the mix, and I'm also gonna make another layer for a bird. Now this bird is much shorter, so I'm going to adjust this a little bit, just make the dog like this, followed by a bird right after. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Alright, so now if we play this, now both the dog and the bird will sound mono or stereo in this case, but not binauralized. So if we play this, alright, so you cannot fully you cannot localize these in at a particular angle on azimuth, because this is mono, so will sound as coming within your head, and the stereo will sound a little bit panned but still not externalized. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add a plugin, a very simple plugin to which is going to apply HRTFs and transform the output of the dog sound into a stereo output, which is post HRTF processing and is going to fit inside our binaural mix at an angle that we choose and we specify. And then we're going to do the same for the bird. So here in my FX window, I'm going to choose, I already downloaded, pre-downloaded and installed what I need to use. In this case, I'm going to use Sennheiser Orbit. So just double click on that. Here we go. Can ignore this. Alright, so this is for the what we're going to apply to the dog sound. And look, the panning is pretty simple. We have an azimuth ring, we have an elevation. We do not have distance knob, but that we can simulate with simple gain to just give the impression of being further or closer. Now this is an outdoors environment, so I'm gonna turn reflections off, and then we're gonna see a little bit what the other knobs do. So let's loop this dog section, play it. I'm going to play with the knobs a little bit. Alright, so hopefully you were able to notice some difference, especially it's pretty clear with the azimuth knob. It's a little more subtle with the elevation knob. It depends also on some sources respond better to elevation change than others. And let's have a listen also to the other knobs, just for the sake of knowing what they do, although we don't need to use them. So once I choose my direction, I'm going to lower the gain a little bit down. It gives more an impression of a faraway dog. So let's suppose this was instead an indoor scene, we could enable reflections. I'm going to serve the dog part. So as you can hear, this adds sort of room reflection simulations. They don't sound amazing, they sound a little bit like an echo. But these knobs will determine the gain level of those reflections, the size of the room, which determines the arrival times of the reflections, and the kind of materials here. These will determine the spectral quality of those reflections. So it will sound a little different according to what you choose. In this case, being an outdoor scene, I'm gonna just turn the reflections off. Well, when it comes to the other knobs, there's a full PDF about this plugin that explains what they do. But my guess is that the clarity knob is sort of a timbre adjustment for some coloration, unwanted coloration that might happen after some HRTF processing. So keep in mind these are generic HRTFs, so they might sound a little off for some people. You can adjust the clarity. I think this mixes a little bit of the regional sound together with the sound of the HRTF mix. The width knob in this case does not really matter because it has to do with stereo input. So we're gonna see this with the bird. So let's bring back our full mix. We're gonna bring the dog down a little bit again. Now I'm going to place the dog where I want it to be, just the gain a little bit, and let's see how it sounds. I'm fairly satisfied with this blend, and that's it. Now we turn this off. You can, if you want, you can also check the in and out situation. This can accept 1 or 2 channels in, and it will always output 2 channels for binaural. Yeah, don't worry about this. All right, so now we do the same process here for the bird. Yeah, be an orbit. There we go. Now this bird sound, I'm going to place a different situation, so I'm going to put it on the back left of the listening environment. Let's start by soloing the bird. Bring it down a little bit. So I want to simulate some bird up in a tree, so I'm gonna try to add some elevation here. And if you slide up and down, you can see some subtle changes in the frequency of the sound. And let's keep it up. I'm going to dramatize the fat, so I'm gonna choose a fairly high, not 90 degrees, but maybe I'm gonna go around at 70 degrees. Let's do it that way. Again, no reflections needed. And we might want to play a little bit with the width. So here you see what's happening, right? So the width of the image can be further increased or decreased, And this really plays with the sharpness of the sound, the correlation level between left and right ears. Um, if you want something fairly localizable, you keep it down. You want something more diffuse, you bring it up. And it's a subtle change in the listening environment, so you can hear the difference between 100% and 0%. As the exact location of the bird is a little more broad when you put it this way. And really depends on you, right? You can decide that this is just a single bird that you want to sharply locate in the space and be in a specific, for example, on a specific location around you, or you might want to give more of a diffuse bird effect and give the impression that perhaps this is not just one bird but many birds singing together at the same time, um, and gives more an ambience kind of feeling. And if you want, you can also superimpose these a little bit, play all together. Alright, so here we have a binaural scene. Fairly simple. I added two objects in the space. You can please add, um, you can go fairly high in numbers. In more complex reproduction systems, this might be converted to ambisonics for simplicity of processing, especially when you have a lot of sources, a lot of objects. But this is a fairly simple scene, so this is very processable as it is. There are definitely several other plugins that allow you to do several other things. So I can show another one here that I have, fairly more complex one by Aalto University. There's the Sparta binauralizer. So I'm gonna try this one instead. Again, I'm going to loop the bird sound, solo it, take away the orbit. Now we can listen to the effect of this one. This will be the back of the head, 90 degrees, sorry, minus 90 degrees on the right, and 90 degrees here is on the left. Now, this convention plus minus 90, it's kind of arbitrary. It's in USA, usually minus 90 will be on the left side. Sometimes in Europe, it's the other way around. So you might see some differences across plugins. We have elevation too. So of course, some plugins might work better than others. These we can give it. There we go. We want to keep it this in mono because it's one source. But you can also, if you want, split these into stereo, and now the original left channels becomes a source, and the original right channel becomes a different source. Now we can make two birds out of this. Place it on different sides, different places around us. This is using a default HRIR set. You can load a different HRIR set or your own if you have a sofa file that matches the situation here. You can also enable rotation by adding an additional rotation to this plane, and you can have a head tracker with an OSC port feature to be able to communicate with this parameter. So the yaw, pitch, and roll. Now I can manually change this. But if you have a head tracker connected to your headphones, you can automatically change this. Alright, so once you're satisfied, We can handle this. All right. Now, the final thing to do here is to render everything. So note that I do not have to do any particular panning with these files, these source files, object files, because the panning is already handled by the plugin itself. So the only thing left to do here is to select my project and render. So give it a name. I'm gonna say forest binaural static. This is static because we're not currently pairing any head tracking source. You choose your directory. I'm gonna put it here. Sample rate, and this is very important. Your output channel should be stereo. You need to output 2 channels. Right, perfect. Now at this point, you can select a different format if you want. Sorry, just checking everything looks good. You want to select your source and the project regions. So master mix, so it's taking the mix of all these channels, of all these tracks. Project regions, time selection. In my case, I do the time selection, doesn't really matter. And I think we're good to go. Render one file. Now it's a good idea to double check every time, see if everything is up to our expectations. So I'm going to mute all these tracks, and I'm going to re-import my render. Which I just call forest binaural static. And now if everything went well, and I play this back, I should have a binaural sound with the sources panned where I panned them earlier. Alright, this is it. We have produced a layered binaural static file by mixing together static binaural recording with some mono-stereo object sources that have been binauralized artificially. There are several more complexities that we're going to look at future situations. For example, you can have ambisonics outputs for flexible recording. You can binauralize the ambisonics too. And there are several other softwares that can allow you to do more complex stuff with loudspeakers, but here Reaper is a pretty flexible software with a lot of 3D audio plugins available. Most of them are free that you can use and integrate for binaural output. All right, well, thank you very much. Good luck.